All right, folks, welcome back. This is not a funeral. It is not necessarily saying that they're going to come back and, win it all. But man, if I recall correctly, Gary, I seem to remember there was a huge grand slam in Game 1 that kind of changed the course of the series, and it was Freddie Freeman. And there was actually a grand slam today. It was Anthony Volpe. Freddie Freeman has that expectation he's going to hit home runs in the postseason.
Yeah,
Anthony Volpe, you and I talk about, he's got no pop. And he went opposite. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the deal. Anthony Volpe hitting that home run absolutely ignited a dead team. This team was dead. Okay, they were not winning tonight if Anthony Volpe doesn't come through there. I just don't believe so. Austin Wells woke up. Hell, Aaron Judge had this. So I'm going to say this before I pass it to you. I know I follow a lot of Dodgers fans, as you know, and welcome to all of you guys that are in this chat. We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody. But Dodgers fans, I think, are looking about this the wrong way. Okay, they're saying right now, okay, this is just a bullpen game. Don't get too excited. This is what Yankees fans should be looking at this as, okay? They should be looking at this as, first off, they just forced the first Game 5, a team that was down 3-0 in the series in the World Series since 1970. That's the first thing. The second thing is they should look at this as a catalyst. Because when I saw, Dave Roberts announce he was going with a bullpen game, I saw that as an opportunity for the Yankees to get going, okay? I saw that as an opportunity because I've seen this team. They can swing the bat against the bullpen. What have we been talking about? The starters have been giving them fits. So they had a chance. They got a crack at the bullpen, and they were able to make things happen. And now you talk about momentum. Momentum matters. And to win this game, but to win it the way they did, not 6-4 like I expected or an 8-6 ball game, Gary, they won 11-4. So they really got everybody going. This was the literal best case scenario for the Yankees in this game because you had Aaron Judge seeing grass, like you said, that great hit. I'm sure that was probably over 100. We could look it up, exit velocity. But like everyone got going. And that, to me, is the most important thing. Everyone except for Rizzo and Stanton had hits in this lineup today. Wells, Volpe, and Verdugo combined for 5 hits at the bottom of the order. If you are going to work magic, if you are going to stretch this to an unprecedented, which means it's literally never happened before, Game 6, where a 3-0 team has never made it out of a Game 5. If you're going to do that, you're going to have all hands on deck. So did Volpe just, as the title suggests, did Volpe wake up a sleeping giant? We'll see, but I think that was different because, Gary, I saw that look in their eyes. They were dead in the water, and that home run changed everything for them.
Yeah, and first, before I get started here, Chibbles, appreciate you becoming a member. That's my buddy Ryan. Let me crack open this Canada Dry.
I had a Canada Dry just before we went live. Shout out Chibbles, though.
That is spicy. And Jeff J, appreciate the super chat. Let's be clear about what happened. No one expected Anthony Volpe to be a key cog in Game 4, okay? A lot of people came into this game thinking, well, the series is over, and can't blame you at all. All of us thought that, and the series still very well could be over, but they still have to play Game 5, right? So the least you can do is show up and be a professional and play today's game. If you win today, all of a sudden there's more pressure on the next team. You really think the Boston Red Sox or any other team that's come back in a series has said, hey, yeah, we've got to look at it from a standpoint of winning 4 in a row? No. The way you have to look at it is that if we lose today's game, we go home. And now we show up for Game 5, and we have to say again, Garrett Cole on the mound. And you said it was Jack Flaherty. Do we feel like we have an advantage there? The answer is yes. Based on what we saw out of Garrett Cole in Game 1, the Yankees have to feel good about it. And not just that. They have to feel that Garrett Cole has thrown 88 pitches in Game 1. Garrett Cole, this is the same Garrett Cole that pitched 95 innings in 2024. You mean to tell me he's not ready to go to throw 130 pitches? He should have a leash longer. He should be able to walk to Dodger Stadium from New York. That's how long that leash should be. Never should he come out of this game. The only time that he should come out of the game is if he tells you, I'm too tired to pick up my arm. That's the way this goes. We are letting it all fly. And at this point, you have to figure if the Yankees do, right? And I can't even say it's expectation to win a World Series game. Very difficult to do. You win a game 5. We're talking about pressure again for the Dodgers, right? You're talking about showing back up to Dodger Stadium where they are incredible and they have to feel pretty good about winning one of those 2 games. But like I told you before, Jake, when you go to a game 7, you can't feel like you have a ton of momentum. So again, want to be clear here. We think the Yankees are probably dead to rights at some form or another along the way here, but they're not dead yet, which feels very trolly. It feels good because obviously people want to put it away and enjoy and take the champagne off ice and start spraying, but that's not the way it goes. You have to finish the job. So let's make it difficult.
Absolutely. And I love, what you've brought up here, in saying Garrett Cole, go the length, because I understand Boone is going to want in some capacity to hold on to him for a potential, game 7 and think ahead. I could totally see him thinking that, but you have to focus on what's in front of you. And to me, you can't just assume that, oh yeah, we have this, and no, you don't have anything in hand. I did not assume this was a win until that crooked number came up in the 8th inning. When that 8th inning happened, I was like, okay, this game's over. But until that, I did not think this game was over. As a matter of fact, I saw a lot where I was like, the entire point, and say what you will, the people that are against, going after guys that can hit home runs have changed this game. Home runs.
Absolutely.
I mean, I sent you yesterday. What were the numbers? The Yankees are better with runners in scoring position than the Dodgers. Do you know the difference? The Dodgers hit home runs, and the Yankees haven't been hitting home runs.
What was the stat again, Jake? It was Freddie Freeman had hit 4 home runs at the time. The New York Yankees had hit 4 home runs. So we're talking about a player that single-handedly had more production than what we had. I promise you guys, if Juan Soto or Aaron Judge were hitting home runs, we wouldn't care about the approach. It's watching people try to hit home runs consistently and failing. That is essentially the unfortunate part. And Jeff J had the super chat. He said, as Joe Torre said to the bench in 1999, after Paul O'Neill roped a double down the right field line, the worm has effing turned. Let's go. I can't, Jeff, get up here and say that the tide has turned. I want to be very clear. Obviously, it is good to see Aaron Judge see some grass, right? See a nice swing, have a decent approach. You also we have to try and realize exactly who it came against, right? This is Brent Honeywell, a player that probably wasn't considered one of their better pitchers on the roster, if not their worst. So I don't want to overblow what we saw, right? Because Aaron Judge was 0 for 2 at some point in this game. And statistically speaking, he was batting average wise the worst hitter with 200 at bats in a postseason career. That's saying quite a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you see solid contact from a player that is that good, it does matter regardless of who's it's against. And the way I see this is you're also looking across the way at a Shohei Ohtani. He is physically compromised, right? I mentioned he's the best player in the world. Maybe people on a Yankees podcast or our viewers maybe disagree with that. I've always felt Ohtani was the best player, but when you have an injury to your shoulder, that does affect hitting. It absolutely is a factor. I think that will be a factor in terms of how he drives the ball in this series, and that will help the Yankees. You don't like to see advantages due to injuries, but they are a factor, right? Freddie Freeman in the championship series, he had a bad ankle injury, and he played through it. Some of those games he sat. So the Yankees have to see this as if we score, we win. Garrett Cole's on the mound for game 5. If we can find a way to get to Flaherty, we are going to win the game, and people are going to show up to Dodger Stadium and say, this team does not lose at home. Let them feel that way because they deserve it. They've played incredible all year. Absolutely. You're going to be the underdog going into those game 6s or potentially even a game 7. You are the underdog, but you can still win. It is physically possible. Will it happen? That's another story.
Yeah, and then, it gets into all sorts of, if you just get back to LA, well, now Rodon gets a chance to redeem himself, and we've already seen Volpe getting a chance to redeem himself. So redemption has a lot to do with sports in general. I mean, we've seen that.
Do you agree, by the way, with this super chat? I actually love this idea. A buddy of mine, my buddy Logan, texts me.
Without a doubt, by the way, without a doubt,
Cole is going to be on his Madison Bumgarner behavior, essentially, right? And what he means by that is that he's going to go length in Game 5, just put the team on his back. And he was great in Game 1, sensational. And he's going to throw a lot of pitches. But the turnover to Game 6 and then Game 7, potentially, is that Garrett Cole is going to ask for the ball again, right? Late in a series. You got to get there first, no question about it. But what do you think about what Perry said?
Well, yeah, if it's a Game 7, it's all hands on deck. I mean, I think at that point, Cole, Cortez, Heel, I think they're going crazy, truthfully, because Schmidt didn't, really elicit the response for me to even put him out there for Game 7. If I'm being honest with you, I don't even know who I'm throwing out. I might even use Cortez as an opener for Game 7. I'm not even kidding you, because I think Schmidt did not look good. And I understand you could say, oh, yeah, it's cold, and maybe in LA he'd get better grip on the baseball. Well, Walker Buehler is used to being in warm weather, and he goes to the cold, area of the country, and now he's pitching better than he's pitched. So my thing is, I'm all about command at this point in the day. Okay. If you have the command, if you can maintain the strike zone, I love Clark Schmidt. I think at some point he's going to get a chance to pitch in a World Series again, and he's going to look good doing it. But right now, if they were to get to that point, based on what I've seen from Clark Schmidt, is that he just doesn't have the command. And if Clark Schmidt doesn't have the command, pretty much any pitcher for that matter, but Clark Schmidt, his entire game is dominating the corners, right? He's painting that corner, and he does it with efficiency, accuracy, and of course, he does it with consistency. A big thing that we kept talking about when it came to Clark Schmidt was his consistency. It's why you and I both said we trusted Clark Schmidt in a World Series game. Some people would have gone with Heel in Game 3.
I came back from that injury, Jake, and he was saying, yeah, surprisingly, my command is there. And when he did return, he was hitting corners, right?
Absolutely.
And when you hit corners, they were talking about the fact that he keeps the ball in the ballpark. And this is part of the reason why both of us agreed. If Clark Schmidt does throw a game, you do trust him. But when you see him have no command, I mean, you saw that first batter that he faced in Shohei Ohtani, you want to stay away from him. But walking him on 4 pitches just establishes a weak mentality and just not going after a player. So, no, I completely agree with you. And by the way, Ronnie, we appreciate the super chat. We agree with this. It is one game at a time. It's the reason why we still think the Dodgers are probably winning this series, right? Yeah. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, we lost 3 games in a row for a reason. The Dodgers won 3 games in a row for a reason. For 3 games, and I'm also including Game 1, they're just the better team. After those 3 games, Freddie Freeman essentially went on a historic run to the point where, Jake, you even said, I think even if the Yankees win the World Series, you might want to give this guy.
I would. How do you not?
It's almost like this guy is going Michael Jordan, LeBron James-esque in the World Series. He's not missing. He's actually hit a home run in 6 straight games.
Crack.
Yeah,
Reggie
6 straight World
Jackson
Series. Come on.
On crack. Like,
yeah, it's insane.
Because Reggie Jackson, who's the greatest postseason hitter ever? I think a lot of people would say Reggie Jackson's in that conversation.
Greatest postseason hitter of all time? I don't know. I'm tough. Not sure. No, it is tough. But I mean, when you do hit 3 home runs in a World Series game, that is going to change something. But I will say this. Mm-hmm. I believe Pablo Sandoval also hit 3 home runs against Justin Verlander in a World Series. So I can't necessarily.
Marco Scutaro, your favorite.
Marco Scutaro, my favorite name drop.
We bring him up every single episode. You just have to.
Yeah. And also, by the way, this is a real side quest conversation here. But I mentioned 6'9", that he should have performed instead of Fat Joe yesterday for Game 3 it was. And 6'9" was indicted this morning.
What?
Yes. This man was arrested for, I guess, like his parole. Like whatever he did. I don't know. I'm not in the system. But saw it on TikTok. It is a true story. Pretty crazy.
That is crazy. That, Yeah, that's crazy. You know, it's funny because I saw your joke and I had actually made a joke about how alive the Yankees are. And
Mhm.
I said, there is alive as Keith Richards. Keith Richards is breathing. Keith Richards is alive, but Keith Richards does not look alive. And so that's how alive, that's how
No,
alive.
so the Yankees look like the way that, what was it, King Harry or whatever his name was? Do you remember him? The dude, it just looked like air hurt. Just being there was painful.
You've never
But yeah,
seen House of the Dragon, but they look like
no.
Viserys.
No, I've heard really good things about that show. So no, I haven't seen it, but the Yankees are barely alive, but we get to attend the game and we're playing a home game. When
Yeah.
you are pitching Garrett Cole, because people are asking us, especially via Super Chat, to focus on today's game. And what they mean by that is we won today, spectacular. Let's talk about that. But game 5, let's talk about that game. That's the only game that should matter because technically you got to look where your feet are. You got to take care of game 5 in order to even talk about game 6. You got to win game 6 to even talk about game 7. We completely agree with that. There's no remix to it. D, we appreciate the super chat. Yeah, Freddie is giving us all nightmares. We're not exactly sure what to do with him. We did see Tim Hill today. We got some Tim Hill action.
You can't walk him though, because the Dodgers, I feel like, do damage anytime there's a guy on base that you let on.
No, they're superstars. They come to play. There are some guys in this lineup I would say I would consider struggling. Like, I know Will Smith hit a homer today, but he's hitting 154, right? Gavin Lux, another player that's considered struggling. The Dodgers, all of a sudden, halfway through this game, just started striking out at an enormous clip. They just couldn't hit the ball. So, not sure what that was about. Maybe they just saw it as, this is not our day. We're just going to go beat them in game 5. It very well could have been that, but it's baseball. I don't know. Jake, what'd you see?
Well, I saw Mark Leiter Jr. worth every single freaking thing that they gave up for him. I saw Luke Weaver look like a baller. I saw Clay Holmes look really good. This bullpen doesn't get enough respect because still we have people saying, because the Yankees are down 3-1, we have people saying that Cashman should have done more and got more pitching help. Pitching isn't the issue. You could argue starting pitching, definitely, but I don't understand how you could say at this point in the game, and there are people saying this that I absolutely love, so I mean no disrespect, but I have to push back here, and I'm not trying to give Cashman a pass. I'm not. But this bullpen has been impeccable. You could not ask for a better performance from Tim Hill, Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle. It doesn't matter who they bring in. These guys have been great. Aside from game 1, I know Clay Holmes struggled. And then, of course, you had Nestor Cortez on, a month worth of rest and hasn't pitched. But aside from that, these guys have given the Yankees every single opportunity to win. And if the Yankees bats were even average up until this point, the Yankees could be going for the series tomorrow, if I'm being honest with you. So that's where we're at. You can't blame the bullpen. You got to give them a lot of respect. That's what I saw today. I didn't see, the Dodgers batters hitting, being poor. I saw the Yankees bullpen once again locking them down. What a lot of people refuse to admit, especially a lot of Dodgers fans, is that the Yankees bullpen has dominated them. It's been as soon as the starter comes out, the Yankees bullpen comes in, and as great as Freddie Freeman is, if he already hit his home run, he's not doing anything the rest of the game. And that has actually been the case. And that's
our
what
bullpen
I mean.
seems a little underrated, I would say, to your
They're
point.
so underrated, man.
But the Dodgers
crazy.
bullpen, you can't possibly consider them underrated. It's a very good bullpen, to the point where they're actually agreeing, regardless if this series did hypothetically go 7 games, the Dodgers have told us, yeah, we're comfortable going 2 bullpen games. We're not even going to surprise you with it. Lock it in. Okay. Dave Roberts said this. So it goes to show you the level of bullpen we're talking about. That bullpen mowed down San Diego, right? Mowed down the Mets late in the series. So they have a great bullpen, but when you look at the Yankees, I think people think of our bullpen and they think Clay Holmes, right? Clay Holmes in that closer's role, and they don't really have an established guy. But if you watch the Yankees really in September on, you'd see Luke Weaver in the way that he's being utilized, very similar. Do you remember Miller pitching in Cleveland, I've mentioned this before.
Andrew Miller,
they bring him out. I know some people were complaining about when he was brought in. I actually agreed with it. They brought him in against the top of the lineup.
Well,
Mookie Betts is coming up there. You shut the door in their face, because if Mookie Betts, the best players on this Dodgers team have made us pay, right? The players that they're paying are making us pay. So let's bring out our best pitcher. He went 1 1/3, struck out 3. No one touched the ball. It essentially put the game on ice and made it a laugher. Now you go into game 5. Everyone's wondering, well, who's going to close game 5 in a situation where it's close? You've got to pray Garrett Cole can go length. 8 innings. I'm looking for 8 full innings out of Garrett Cole, 120 pitches, just letting it hang. You don't worry about who's closing the game. You don't worry about who's bridging the game to the closer. None of those things. It is 45 till we die. That's how it goes.
I'm with you on that. And, I want to point out, not only was this a catalyst potentially for getting them on the right track, but by them having that crooked number inning that we talk about in the 8th inning, that ensured that Boone did not have to go back to Luke Weaver in the 9th. That could win them the game tomorrow night. That's what I talk about is like catalyst. That's what I talk about is like an extension of like when you're able to come through. Now Tim Mays is pitching, right? He's pitching a junk inning. Like the Dodgers are already getting ready to get into the clubhouse and, move on to tomorrow.
They're firing up the showers by that point.
The fact that they did that, though, because they couldn't have done that if they don't have a 5-run 8th inning. That's the thing. 6-4, this is still a ball game. The Dodgers absolutely could have come back and won this game, and I would not been the least shocked. But the fact that they put together a 5-run inning in the 8th completely broke the Dodgers' spirit in this game. Didn't break them for we'll see. But I doubt it broke them for the entirety of the playoffs. But the point being is that now strategically that benefits you tomorrow because Weaver pitched 21 pitches. Okay. He was used a lot we both had issues with it. You had an issue in game 2 in the ALCS. He was used a lot even when he didn't need to be. I like that Boone kind of matured from that decision. And in the World Series, he's like, we don't need to use him. You're not just using him to just give him work. It's unnecessary. He's your closer. So you put out Meza, who has not given up a run yet. And sure enough, 15 pitches, he takes care of it and ensures, in my opinion, that you have Luke Weaver in a must-win game 5.
Yeah, and Boone did say, because I heard this during the middle of the game, that his big regret actually earlier in this series was pulling Luke Weaver early. That was his big regret. He didn't mention anything about Garrett Cole, which was surprising. But to say that was his big regret, it's clear that he's saying Luke Weaver is our best arm. He's our best arm, our most trusted guy outside of maybe a Garrett Cole. But you want to live and die based on your best players. The Dodgers are living and dying based on their best players, and their best players are doing work. That's why it's 3-1. We are still in a hole. I understand that like right now it feels like we have a ton of momentum, but obviously for Dodgers fans, they have to be looking at it thinking, well, game 1 was close, but we beat the brakes off you guys in game 2 and game 3. So that's how that projects into game 5. We've got a lot of work to do. Garrett Cole needs an encore performance. And Kyle, we appreciate the super chat predicting that Garrett Cole's going to shove and also that this offense is going to show up tomorrow. And I will say, I cannot possibly predict that the offense is going to do anything. I'm not going to give them a prediction because I don't think people understand, especially Dodgers fans, just how unprecedented that performance was out of Anthony Volpe today. Let me just give you guys some clarification here. Anthony Volpe was 2 for 3, stole 2 bags, hit a grand slam. Okay. Obviously made a terrible read on the bases, but when you go 2 for 3 with a granny, you can make mistakes on the bases. We'll let that slide. Okay. Now, Anthony Volpe has had the most odd, strange rug pull roller coaster of a season a baseball player has ever seen in their lives. Now, some people will watch a player play incredible baseball, hit 400 in March, right? And say, oh, this is the player of the future. And they don't criticize players and say, I'll never give up on this guy. Then all of a sudden something good happens at the end of the year. Say, I told you. Really? Here are the numbers from Anthony Volpe. March, he hit 400. All of us were stoked. hit 259, not terrible in April, hit 293 in May. We thought, wow, we really have a franchise cornerstone here. Hits 220 in June, 235 in July, and 247 in August. And one would say, Jake, the most important month of the season to prepare for October baseball, the most important, really the real season of baseball, September ball. He had 25 games, 85 at bats in September. You know, he hit 176. And he shows up here in game 4 of the World Series and is the best player on the field. A complete surprise. But I will tell you guys, if we want to see Aaron Judge actually make an impact and he gets a hit or two somewhere and drives in runs, these players are going to have to give some type of output. What you saw out of Austin Wells today, they're going to have to do more. They're not just going to say, well, they helped us win game 4. Now take a back seat to Aaron Judge. No, you guys have to play too. Look at the Dodgers, right? Ohtani hasn't done much in this series, yet they've won 3 games. The others are pulling their rope. The others on our roster have to pull their rope if we want any chance at all to not win the series, to win game 5.
I think to go back to that point, Verdugo understood the assignment as well, because I thought he had some great at-bats today. You don't just hit a home run, a meaningless home run last night, and not build off it. And I thought, he kind of took it upon himself. Like, the job wasn't finished. I didn't just contribute last night. Like, we need to win this game. And that 2-run base knock is, once again, it's exactly what we're talking about. Wells looks locked in now. Again, Dodgers fans, I understand. Like, it's Honeywell, totally get it. Also, got to give a lot of credit to Dave Roberts. I thought he did this the right way. Landon Knack gives you 4 innings. Kasperius is pretty solid for those 2 innings. They only gave up 2 runs in 6 of those innings, right? Knack was huge. Knack probably saved their bullpen, because if he gets obliterated, you're getting into, they only use 4 arms today, Gary. And if he gets destroyed, I mean, you're probably having 5, 6, 7 arms.
It reminds me of the reason they said Marcus Stroman was on this roster. Remember that? That's
literally, I'm watching Landon Knack and I'm like, why is Stroman not doing this?
Yeah, because I mean, I understand if you're not going to pitch Marcus Stroman and you didn't think that he had any role in any of these games, then why is he there? Right? Like, why'd you put him there? Because I think Marcus Stroman strategically can be used, right, to save arms. But I don't know. I don't know if I would argue that there hasn't been a spot where I could have used him. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Jeff J with the super chat says he's been a fan for 40 years. He's not betting on the Yankees to sweep from here, but we're finally playing. Yeah, Jeff, we actually have some heart, right? And I would say if we just completely lay down, you can't beat a team like the Dodgers. You just can't.
No,
so
absolutely not.
We're just proud that the Yankees showed some type of fight. We know what the odds are. I think everybody in here understands the odds, but you've got to play today's game, and today's game gets punted on to tomorrow. And we happen to have our best arm out there. Now, what happens from there, we don't know. Yeah. But you got to go out and say, if you're going to be this big-time Yankee, you've got to perform in spots like this. We absolutely need it. It is dire. But also, even more importantly, I would say than Garrett Cole tomorrow, is our offense. This offense has to hit. You cannot pray Garrett Cole's going 8 shutout. You need to go out there and put a 6 or 7 spot up on the board. We are still talking about Jack Flaherty. We're not talking about Curt Schilling. This isn't Sandy Koufax, okay? This is not Justin Verlander from 2016 or 2015 runs. No, this is a very good pitcher in the league. He is not a future Hall of Famer. It's none of that, okay? You need to get mistakes and do damage. It is that simple. So, yeah, is it going to be easy? No, but none of this is easy. You've got to be the better team just tomorrow, and then we'll punt the conversation again to Game 6.
Yeah, and to tack on to Jeff J's point, and appreciate you again, appreciate everybody for the super chats, but to tack on to Jeff J's point here, as a Yankee fan, you have to admit this has not been fun. This has not been a fun series. This has not felt like a World Series. Game 1 felt like a World Series. Game 1 was special, regardless of how you feel. I don't feel like Yankees fans thought that they would be to this point from Game 1. but it is a reminder how important momentum is. So this is why Yankee fans were celebrating like they won the World Series tonight. You see it in the crowd. Hey, I paid $2,000. Yeah, I'm going to be tossing my beer up in the air and screaming. I don't see what the big deal about it is. At the end of the day, everyone wants their team to make the World Series. It's been a 15-year drought for the Yankees, and they looked like they were going to go out sad. Anthony Volpe hits that home run. Everything changes. And for the first time in this series, I felt like Yankee fans were having fun, enjoying it, regardless of how this thing went down. The idea of just having fun and enjoying a moment that, look, people are watching this with their family and their friends, the significant other, whatever. It's a big deal. And so to finally enjoy something this series and feel like it was a World Series, yeah, now you got to build off it. But Slim Lewis, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, Mickey Mantle. He was probably good. The World Series GOAT. Good Lord. 18 home runs and 230 World Series at bats, 7 rings. Isn't it funny how no one talks about rings in baseball? I know we've had this conversation before.
I will say, though, about rings, like using rings to define a player's legacy. I will say this, Jake. I think winning once does matter in baseball. Mm-hmm. Like watching Clayton Kershaw get over the hump in 2020 and win that title was huge for him. I thought it was bigger for him than even Dave Roberts or anybody else in that history of that franchise to win. Clayton Kershaw was seen as a player that just couldn't get it done. And frankly, to see him get over the hump was huge. But I will say this, I wouldn't necessarily look at a player and go, well, he won 7 times to that player who won 3 or 4. And then he's just better or a better postseason player, because you see how important team is in this sport. There Absolutely. Are so many players that have a factor. I mean, to see Anthony Volpe, without his contribution, we just go home. And it affects Aaron Judge's legacy, right? So in the off chance that the Yankees, it would be insane for the Yankees to come back and win this series. Is anyone going to be talking anymore about Anthony Volpe's contribution in Game 4? No, they're not. They're going to be talking about Aaron Judge, because if they would do that, it means Aaron Judge turned into a hero, essentially, right? Yeah. He had to have come through at some point or another in these next 3 games. So, yeah, it's insane to see in baseball how many people touch the ball, how many people have an impact. And there's going to be one player in Game 5 for either team that impacts the result of the game, and none of us will see it coming. So you just have to pray it's a guy in pinstripes.
That's always been my gripe about using rings to decide who's a better player. But I think in the NFL, when you're talking about quarterbacks, it's a little different, right? They touch the ball more than anybody. And then when you talk about the NBA, there are 5 guys on one side of the court and 5 guys on the other. It's pretty limited. But you're talking about baseball, and to your point, I mean, a left fielder might not catch the entire game. He might not catch a line drive, a pop-up, may not even be involved in the game. It doesn't always happen, but it could happen. And so, everyone else is really getting like opportunities and whatnot. You need a catcher, pitcher, all this, bullpen, hockey. I agree with you. Like, I don't think rings. I feel like you just need to get one, honestly, in baseball. And really, you don't even have to, because end of the day, it's like, I've never heard anybody say this player I would take more because he has more rings. It's always been about what's on the back of the baseball card. Whereas football, it's all about rings. Basketball, it's all about rings. I know for a while, Alex Ovechkin got a lot of hate because he never had a Stanley Cup. And then he finally won, and people are like, oh, so, hockey has that to an extent, but yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be like, yeah, Mike Trout had a terrible career because he never won a World Series. Like, I don't think so.
It's also about how you play, right? Because if we could hypothetically just throw a win to the Yankees right now, a World Series championship, would you guys really look at Freddie Freeman and say, man, he really choked away the World Series? No, he's the best player on the field. What are we saying? Freddie Freeman right now is the best player on the field. He's the best player playing baseball in the world. That's the way it is. And
absolutely,
if we're going to do something about it, then great. But nobody can take that away. And by the way, I see this super chat from Nick Gomes, and I think this is a perfect encapsulation of what people were saying and how you can use it against them. So look at this. He said, tons of people said Garrett Cole should start Game 4. Who starts Game 5? right? Garrett Cole can't start every game. Non-Hall of Famers finally stepped up. Now, Nick, appreciate the super chat always. In hindsight, you always wanted to leave, right, your best cards in your hand. That's in hindsight. Absolutely. Right? If you can leave the best player and leave him for the next game, the Yankees would love to do that. The Yankees, hell, they would like to save Garrett Cole for a game 6, not even pitch him in game 5. But the way this works is everyone earlier was saying, well, what about focusing on just today's game? What about that? What about just putting your best players out there, trying to win today and not worrying about game 5? Don't worry about game 6. Don't worry about how we're teeing people up for opportunities later. Let's act like today's game is the only game. Well, that's those people saying Garrett Cole should pitch game 4. That's what they're saying. They're saying that they trust Garrett Cole on short rest more than they trust Luis Gil. That's what they were saying. So I'm not necessarily going against you, but I understand the mentality of putting your best players out there to sink or swim, win or lose.
Yeah, and I think, part of this comes down to the manager. I think, Aaron Boone, this is the job he has to do. He has to kind of weigh his options. Do you believe in your team truthfully? And what is the message sent? There's a lot of different variables that go into a decision like that. Because if you throw Cole out there in game 4, well, now good luck. Luis Gil doesn't feel any confidence whatsoever. And if you throw, Garrett Cole out there in game 4, then maybe these guys in the lineup don't feel as confident. They don't actually do anything today. A lot of different things can come down to it. I want to point this, appreciate the super chat, SoCal Lowbrow.
Absolutely.
Your fan base has no guts. At least in LA, you're gonna be rocked. Trying to break Mookie's wrist. Why are you not talking about that? Well, we like to talk about actual baseball on this channel, not just, TMZ stuff. But look, it was funny in the moment. It was. It's hilarious in the moment because it's
just a guy being an idiot.
It's unhinged as hell. But we're not going to make this a segment because it had nothing to do with the outcome of the game. It's an 11-4 ball game. Do I agree that people like AKA spectators don't deserve or shouldn't be allowed to touch other people who are playing in a baseball game? Absolutely. Like that's so. My issue with this, and I'll just say this, and I really appreciate your super chat. Appreciate the donation. But my issue with this is I see a lot of Yankees fans. This happens everywhere. I mean, there was an idiot Dodger fan that interfered in the game.
Didn't a player in Manny Machado step on the back of someone's ankle at first base? There are egregious plays all over the place between fans, players, managers making decisions to throw at players. There are all types of decisions. There are all types of decisions. We don't have anything to do with it. You guys, what do you think? I'm pulling strings and I have control over what the guy's doing in right field. I don't care what he's doing.
I had LA fans tagging me. I was like, you see what your fan base does?
Reprehensible what you guys are doing.
I didn't do this. The guy throwing up the middle finger when Ohtani was on the ground at Billy's Sports Bar. And now I'm guilty of this? What?
There are literally fist fights. I've seen Dodgers fans will tell you occasionally, depending on which fan base you're playing, there could be fist fights. I've seen a fist fight outside of Dodger Stadium between the Dodgers and Giants fans, right? Has nothing to do with any of the 50,000 people who are standing inside. It is literally just one bozo. Has nothing to do with the fan base. People love to watch one standout person being dumb and say, yeah, see, that's how they all are. Stop being an ignoramus. Let's stop the cap.
Like
please.
The NFL fans fighting outside, be like, how dare your fan base, bro? That's just one drunk dude who's just throwing haymakers at another drunk dude. That has nothing to do with me. I just work here. Yuri, thank you so much for the 5. Your best players have to be your best players, and role players have to be attention to detail. Go Yankees. I agree. Your best players have to step up. There's no way the Yankees are going to pull off the incredible without, Aaron Judge coming through. I mean, there's no way. If Garrett Cole can't give them a good start in game 5, there's no way they're going to win that game. So these guys do have to step up.
Just the bottom of the lineup?
Oh, what do you mean by the bottom of the lineup?
Think of today's game without the bottom of our lineup.
Oh, I know.
Anthony Volpe 2 for 3.
But
grand
that helps
slam.
you in a game. You
Yes.
can't rely on that for the next 3 games. Like Judge, and I love the way you said it, and we're going to go to a break here and talk about Odds Jam in a little bit. But I love the way you said it, because how did you word it? You said Aaron Judge has nowhere to hide.
No.
You can't hide. In the World Series, the lights are bright. Like, you have to come through. If you don't come through in game 1, that's fine. Come through in game 2. If you don't come through in game 2, you can come through in game 3. But if you're not coming through in game 3 and now you're down 3-0, you have to do something. Well, he got picked up again today. And you know what? I'll say this. Judge was good today. Okay. Walks do matter. They're not better than hits. Okay. We talked about this, but he had some good at bats. And I think Aaron Judge is getting back to where he was. And, I give, Smoltz, all sort of grief. But I thought Smoltz did a nice job of kind of explaining it. Judge earlier in the series is swinging out a lot of those breaking balls that were way off the plate. Today, he's taking them. He's seeing better. That hit, you could see it just takes one swing to get you kind of, back into rhythm. And I think Judge might have had that swing against, Cleveland. But the reality is that time off, while it helped Freddie Freeman, it also, hurts you, because if you're in a rhythm, now you're in that time off as well. So that's kind of the reality of that. But before we get into anything else, just want to take a quick break here and talk about Odds Jam, who are the sponsors of today's live stream. So, what if you could make risk-free profits in sports betting? This may sound too good to be true, but let me explain. The sports betting market in the U.S. is so fragmented, with each sports book setting their own odds. This means there are so many opportunities to profit when 2 books get out of sync. You can bet both or over on one book, under on another, and lock in a risk-free profit. This strategy is called arbitrage. It's the core of Odds Jam. Odds Jam scans hundreds of sports books in real time to find these bets, helping thousands of bettors earn tens of thousands of dollars every single month. Look at the results yourself. And here's the best part. You can try it for free. Odds Jam offers a 7-day risk-free trial, giving you access to all of its data-driven tools, including arbitrage and positive EV finder. If you don't love it, cancel with one click, no strings attached. Ready to get started? Use promo code UNLOADED for 35% off your first month after the trial. Don't miss out on making smarter risk-free bets with Odds Jam today. And again, that's 35% off using our code UNLOADED. So, Gary, man, we got some fun baseball hopefully in store. This is a huge win, and we're gonna see if they have some mettle. And if they can, turn this thing around and, they can make a series out of this, because again, 1970 is the last time that a team down 0-3, right, in the series, in the World Series, has made a game 5. So the Yankees did something that hasn't happened since 1970. My dad was born in 1969. Okay, so my dad was 1 year old the last time this happened. So let's see what they can do, because what's kind of funny about this, and it made me feel better today. I didn't know that this was unprecedented, Gary, the idea of getting to a game 6. If the Yankees get to a game 6, why not them? Why not? We've never seen a team get there. So we can't just assume that if they get to a game 6, it's over, but this was cool. No, at that point, now we can really start ramping this thing up. But they have to win tomorrow night. They get a day off for travel. And then Friday at Dodger Stadium, you have to get over the hump that is Yamamoto, the guy that you wanted so desperately in the offseason. He could end your season. Are you going to let him, or are you going to punch back? And guess what? If you do, so now you're talking about a win and another win. Then you go to a game 7 on Saturday, and you're likely going up against Walker Buehler, a guy that you got dominated by. If
that game existed, I'd be at the stadium. That's the way it is.
Find a way.
And we don't worry about game 6. We don't worry about game 7. We're just telling you guys hypotheticals.
Yeah.
And again, SoCal, we appreciate the super chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
We completely understand why you think the Dodgers will win. It is the most likely scenario. That's part of the reward of winning 3 games, is that you only have to win one more game. It's far easier to win one game. But you know what they always say, Jake? Winning that last one is the hardest. So every single game that we play from this point, it is the hardest game for the Dodgers to win. It's the game that makes the Yankees let go of the rope. Are we going to let go of it? We're going to find out in game 5 and understand this. We've got our best pitcher going. So the Yankees have to feel if we go home, we went home with our best. And if we don't go home, now there's pressure. I'm here to tell you right now, I get people think the Dodgers can't lose at Dodger Stadium. Totally understandable based on how they've played. You can lose at Dodger Stadium when there's pressure. I promise you, any team can lose. In this sport, this is not the only sport. Hockey, right? In the NFL, when there's pressure, it changes things. So, and also health, right? The health of Shohei Ohtani. How healthy is that shoulder? We will find out. But I'll tell you, Jake, right now, there's no pressure. The Dodgers simply lost a game 4. The series is extended into a game 5. And it just so happens that game 5 happens to be the Yankees' best arm. And now, if they win that game, you can see how the pressure mounts, right? So, yeah, now, as SoCal states, they're likely to win. He is right. There's no way to skate by that. You cannot possibly travel around that. But the Yankees have to lose for this to end. So, yeah, a lot of baseball to be played. Hopefully, we've got some more episodes for our podcast. And it's not just ending in a game 5 because, I mean, our audience has been incredible. We don't want it to die. But, yeah, let's score. Let's score some runs early.
It's funny how that actually – so when I said yesterday, I don't care about the sweep. Like, if they don't win, I don't care. I've completely changed that mindset because I thought about it from our perspective, and I don't want to give this up. I mean, not that we're done. Like, after the season, we're still going to be doing winter meetings. And then, of course, you have next season. And, man, you let us get a year under our belt. We get into year 2 next year. Oh, it's going to be a blast. But, I don't want this to end. I've enjoyed this season so much talking ball with you, Gary. And, hey, it's him. He's the reason, because I wasn't going to do this. He talked me into this. I was like, really? People would listen to me? And you're like, yeah, people would listen to you talk about baseball. I was like, I don't know if I could do it. And he was right. So it's been fun. We've had over 160 something episodes, and I just don't want to, I don't want to stop. And so it's funny how it's not even necessarily, in that sense, it's not even necessarily about like, obviously being a Yankee fan, we want this to continue. We want them to get a shot to pull off history, but it's also like, damn, I don't want this to end. Like, I understand you and I will still be podcasting, that I'm well aware of, but it's just different, man. We have been buckled into this season. There was a little bit of a little hiatus in there. But we've pretty much gone live. Well, not live. We did pre-recorded. I'm glad we're doing live now, by the way.
No, we were afraid to do live. Let's be clear about that. We went once live, and we had about 300 people in there. We got off thinking, oh, this is good news for us. Great. Everyone loved that. Then we hopped off, and the algorithm just essentially took us out back like old Yeller. So we were afraid to do lives, and your dad convinced us, to hell with the algorithm. It doesn't matter. As long as people are there that enjoy baseball, regardless of which team they root for, you shouldn't care about the algorithm. You shouldn't care about the views. And long and behold, now our views are good anyway. So, and by the way, SoCal, we appreciate the super chats. We've got a subscriber out of a person who's not even a fan of this team. That is how you know we've got something here. So, SoCal, we really appreciate you. You guys make this podcast go. And you know what's interesting is I feel like relatively Dodgers fans have been pretty peaceful. I don't think it's been that bad. I know for a fact, I've covered the Yankees before. Those Astros series, it's not that the fan base is better. It was just heated. Like we just hated each other every step of the way. No one gave anyone any respect. I think a lot of it had to do with the cheating scandal. I'm not sure. And I'm sure Dodgers fans also. Yeah, I bet you Dodgers fans and Astros fans also feel that same way against each other. Like it is just no respect given whatsoever. So this has been actually pleasant.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like covering an LA team and then having to kind of skeet around that. Like I did my Rams video today in my Yankees jersey and totally forgot. And I was just like, you know what? I don't even care. Like today, I had a good feeling about today. I said yesterday, I think the Yankees are going to win a bullpen game. And, we'll see what ends up happening. Hope we keep Dodgers Yankees going. I'm a fan of this rivalry. We need this again. Much love. 2025, 2026. F the Astros.
Yeah, this was like Mayweather Pacquiao. That this matchup hasn't delivered yet, right? And so it's the Yankees' job. I see this matchup between Yankees and Dodgers very similar to the way it was with Kobe and LeBron. And unfortunately, in the years that Kobe did get to the finals in 2009 and 2010, actually, and LeBron James didn't get there. Now he was playing for a crappy Cleveland team. That didn't help. But everyone was hoping for that matchup. We finally got that matchup, and this matchup is perfect for Major League Baseball. Everyone wants to see this. Even if you could be a Reds fan, they're watching this series. They're probably not happy with how it's going, but let this go to Game 6. I promise you, everyone's turning it on again. And Jake, I also wanted to pivot to a very important conversation that I know people probably, especially Yankees fans, wanted us to talk about. It was the lineup today. There was a mix-up, right? They actually did move some guys around, and you saw Jazz Chisholm, who really hasn't done much hitting, to get into that 4 spot. It was very different than the lineup I had in mind. I was not expecting to see this. No. My expectation was to see Aaron Judge actually moved into the 2 spot. Obviously, you leave Gleyber Torres alone at leadoff. He's been sensational there.
I didn't want to hear that Gleyber Torres that Judge was almost the leadoff hitter today. Verducci put that out. I was like, oh God, no.
It was insane. No, I thought it would be best to have Judge at 2 because now you have the protection of Juan Soto in the 3 spot, Giancarlo Stanton, who's played well the entire postseason, in the 4 hole, right? Then Rizzo also has been hitting. He's hitting over 300 still after going over 4. I put him at 5. So in general, I was just stacking up simply the players lefty and righty who are performing. That was it, right? And then I had Anthony Volpe after that, another performing player. So I was surprised by this lineup. What did you think about it?
I liked it because I almost feel like it was a little bit of a kick in the ass for Jazz Chisholm. Like it was like, we trust you. We're actually going to put you in the 4 hole. There were other lefties they could have gone with. They went with Jazz. And I probably would have gone with Rizzo, if I'm being honest with you. But, funny, Agreed. Rizzo didn't hit anything today. Stanton didn't hit anything today. But, I think he's going to roll with this tomorrow. And the reason being is because while I don't love, and like I've always said, I think the platoon is overrated, but there's some truth to it. I think it's overrated in a sense that it's just the end all be all for a lot of these managers, and they will literally take out pitchers that are killing it for the platoon, and they'll actually swap out batters that should be hitting and pinch hit a guy just to have that matchup, or maybe they'll send a guy down in the lineup so he gets fewer at bats because of this matchup. But I do think today it made sense because essentially Dave Roberts couldn't just go crazy with the lefties, right? It was very, balanced. And I think it wasn't a surprise that as soon as they had that balance again in their lineup, we kind of saw that emerge today. Now, again, I don't think they win this game if Anthony Volpe doesn't hit that home run. I think the grand slam kind of changed everything. And, it's kind of the thing about Freddie Freeman's home run is that a grand slam doesn't win the game. You know what I mean? Like they didn't need a grand slam, but there's something about hitting a grand slam that just feels different in the World Series. Volpe, I guess, didn't need the grand slam because they would have taken the lead regardless. But the grand slam it propels you. There's something about it. It's not a common thing. Doesn't happen very often. It's what everyone's thinking. You bet your ass. As soon as the bases are loaded, everyone's thinking grand slam. But how often, realistically, does a grand slam happen? And so I thought that was huge. Yeah, I thought that was huge today. And that's what got things going. But yeah, if Jazz can put together some of the at-bats he had, and again, I'm going to say this again because he keeps doing it. I like Jazz a lot. I went to bat for this guy. I came on the show and I said I wanted them to trade for him. I said he could be a star in New York. Jazz needs to stop arguing balls and strikes. It's actually bothering me. I'm not even kidding you.
Do you think putting him in the 4 spot where there's a very high possibility that Gleyber Torres, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge are on base. And when you're in a position, in a huge spot in the game, maybe your focus is more likely to be on that moment as opposed to the umpire. Because to your point, Jazz Chisholm has been complaining about the umpires, and the umpiring has been bad. It's not that he has no gripe. We get it. But
this was the best one we've seen all series.
At some point or another, you've got to move on. You have to, you need to say, okay, I saw the call. Hey, that's low. Okay, now you move it back. But when you see the next call and then it's back to the umpire, and then now it's, let me step out. Oh, right. Oh, now all of a sudden you see another call that's borderline and you're taking that pitch. You're not making adjustments. You're out of the game, right? So maybe putting Jazz Chisholm in the 4 spot puts him in a position where he's involved enough in an important aspect of the game where he's got to focus on baseball. Because Jazz Chisholm is a player a lot of us projected to play better when he got to pinstripes. Why? Because we assume when he is more focused on, right? When we're actually putting the spotlight on him, he's going to respond because of his personality, because of his style of play. Well, isn't putting him in the 4 spot behind Aaron Judge, he's going to be in an important spot. There's going to be a situation where it's 3rd and 2nd, 1 out, and he's got to do something. He shouldn't be focused on the umpire. He should be focusing on the task at hand. So in general, would I have put Jazz Chisholm in the 4 spot? Absolutely never. No, never. I would have put Anthony Rizzo because he's swinging a hot bat, and we've just lost 3 games in a row. I'm going with the hot hand, and that's the reason I gave the lineup I did. But I will say this, regardless of the way this lineup looked, we won. We got huge performance out of Anthony Volpe. We've got a great performance. We got 2 RBIs out of Alex Verdugo. We will take them. We need anything we can get. We are simply buying time for our key cogs to start hitting balls out of the ballpark. Yes, you heard it right, folks. I am waiting for our best players to leave the ballpark, because if it happens, this series is going to be difficult for the Dodgers. Maybe not to win, but to get us to lose one more time. We will make it difficult.
No, that's exactly how I feel, because that is really what I'm talking about. And again, I understand Dodgers fans saying you beat our worst part of the bullpen. I'm understanding of that. But the problem that what people aren't seeming to understand when I say this was a catalyst game, potentially, is that it doesn't matter if these are bad pitchers or not. First off, they're on an MLB World Series roster. The second thing, Gary, is that it won't matter if Austin Wells, who couldn't hit anything, just hit a home run, had a really nice day. Anthony Volpe, who was dead in the water, just had a really nice day and saved the team. This is a young player. This is a player that was pretty much anointed as the next Derek Jeter. Whether it was fair or not, people were like, he's our Derek Jeter. Well, guess what? He had his Derek Jeter moment tonight, and we'll see if he can build off that. But that's what I'm talking about. The damage is done. Regardless of who they went up against, do you think Anthony Volpe is sitting there like, oh man, my home run doesn't matter because I hit it off Daniel Hudson? No, absolutely not. He's looking at like, I just hit a mother effing grand slam in the World Series to give my team life. And
the opponent
everyone
just
loves
doesn't
me
matter.
right now after everyone like booing me this year at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
I mean,
if he
come
did
on.
the hit, they would say, oh yeah, we just swept them, right? They would just talk about the sweep. You get the big hit. Obviously, game 4 is a wrap. By the end, it was a laugher. And now it's, well, we're just going to beat you in 5. Okay, that's fine. And we have no problem with that projection. And obviously, SoCal here, appreciate the super chat. He's projecting, he's basically saying that these franchises are needed in baseball. It's absolutely right. The Yankees
the Dodgers are somewhat needed, and I've kind of changed my stance, mainly because I do a show with you. The Dodgers are needed for this reason, Gary.
Yeah.
Because the Dodgers winning puts more pressure on everyone else to spend money. And there are a lot of owners that want to pretend that they don't have any money, and there's no salary cap in this sport. So it's absolutely bullshit that, the Pittsburgh Pirates, for instance, their fan base can sit there and root for this team. And when they get off to their, expected crazy start every season, and then they don't make the playoffs, and they're like, why can't we make a move at the deadline? is because your owner isn't spending money. It's not just him, though. It's the Reds. It's all those owners that they get the built-in excuse of we're small market. You're an owner of a Major League Baseball team. Miss me with the small market. There's no small market. They're billionaires, and it is a sport that does not have a salary cap. So hopefully, by seeing the Dodgers and Yankees, instead of bitching, moaning, complaining like, oh, we don't have the money, we don't have the payroll, maybe you'll actually spend the money. Maybe you'll pay your players. Okay. That's at the end of the day, I actually have changed my opinion on that. Say what you will. I didn't love the deferral. I really didn't. I like on Ohtani because I feel like that was built in for those small market teams to be able to afford some of their players. I get that. But I'm kind of over the small markets, man. I think a lot of these teams, they have owners that should be spending more money. And we do see it every now and then. You know how like a Phillies team emerges? And I'm not saying Philadelphia is a wicked small market, but the Phillies.
Well, they're spending a lot. But the point here that we're making, people don't watch those small markets. So we can root for it all we want. We can put Brad Pitt in there for all the ladies to go watch Moneyball. Well, guess what? All that exciting story about the Oakland A's, no one watches it. Nobody. No. The Arizona Diamondbacks were one of the most exciting baseball teams that I watched last year. Incredible. Stealing bases all over the place. Dodgers fans will tell you they played incredible, right? And yet the World Series started and 6 million people watched it. No one wanted to see it. So if people are saying that it's a problem that the Dodgers are spending all this money or even the deferrals, for me personally, I didn't care about the deferrals just from a simple standpoint of it's available to all these teams. It's available to all these players. And frankly, the reason that Shohei Ohtani agreed to the deferrals is because he's committing to winning. So much so that he's willing to punt on all that money until 10 years from now, which isn't much of a problem. I mean, I think probably Porsche, they probably pay him $10 million a year. He's doing just fine. If you look at the house he's building in Hawaii right now, I think Ohtani is doing just fine. But the point is, the Dodgers spending money and winning puts pressure, to your point, on the Yankees to spend more. If the Yankees go into an offseason where you do lose handedly to the Dodgers, you can't say just re-signing Juan Soto is enough. No, it's re-signing Juan Soto, and then what else are you going to do, right? Corbin Burns is a free agent, right? Rizzo has an opt-out. What are you doing at first base? What are you doing at third? Is Jazz Chisholm staying over there, or are you upgrading with Alex Bregman? The Yankees are going to have to be proactive, and not just the Yankees, the New York Mets, right? The San Francisco Giants, right? Who SoCal mentioned. There are a lot of franchises who are attempting to get great players on their roster by spending money or developing. We're fine with both, but don't do neither and then villainize the teams that are trying to spend.
Yeah, I think like the ones that I think bother me the most are those that Florida Marlins team that beat the Yankees in the World Series. Josh Beckett. Yeah, Josh Beckett, they lose. Miguel Cabrera, they lose. Dontrelle Willis, they lose. That was a joke. Not Marlins fans. They're not a joke. They deserve an actual team that's willing to invest. These are investments. Like you said, at the end of the day, you're investing in Garrett Cole for a Game 5 in the World Series. That's what you're investing in, right? Yeah. The fact that the Florida Marlins had an ownership where they wouldn't even pay guys that helped them win a World Series as a wild card team, right? Because they never won a division. Any of those years that they went to the World Series and won, wild card. I think they were the only team to that point. So that's what bugs me, is that it's not that I'm getting mad at the players or the fans. I'm getting mad at the ownership, because these fans deserve to be able, you should be able to make a Marlins podcast and have a lot of viewers. The problem is these markets, it's insane. A lot of these people just don't care. These owners just don't care. They care about the bottom line, and that's
there's like Red Sox podcasts right now. There's Red Sox podcasts, huge Red Sox podcasts, right? Yeah. People have chosen to do this and cover this team seriously. Yeah. And yet Mookie Betts comes up on a contract and they just throw him over to the Los Angeles Dodgers for Alex Verdugo and a couple of other players. Are you kidding me?
That was pathetic, man.
By the way, props to the Dodgers for recognizing an organization that's not taking care of business and saying, yeah, I'll go ahead and take that player off your hands and pay him what he's deserving to be paid because it's an obvious choice. You bring in a player like Mookie Betts. He's good at everything. He's good at bowling. He's good at baseball. He's good at podcasting. What are we talking about? Okay. And this is owner John Henry, by the way, a billionaire that said no in Boston. It's insane.
That reminds me of in their I know they're LA fans in here. Reminds me of the Jaguars. Remember when they were in the AFC title game and lost? They've barely lost to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Barely, right? And then, like, not long after that, they're trading AJ Boye. They're trading Jalen Ramsey. They're trading Dante Fowler Jr. The Rams are like, all right, if you're trading Jalen Ramsey, we'll take him. They won a Super Bowl with Ramsey. Like, to your point with Betts, it's like, give those teams credit. Give the teams credit that are willing to go out and be like, you know, this is surprisingly available. Let's take advantage of it. Why is Mookie Betts available at his young age?
Who's the best player in this series again?
Well, Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Freeman. You mean to tell me the Atlanta Braves wanted Olsen instead of this player? Are you joking?
That's a little weird because his agent totally screwed him on that.
Sure. But also,
but I know what you mean.
The Dodgers fans will point out. They will attest to this. People give credit to these organizations that essentially will let a superstar walk, take the $350 million extension, right? It's seen as it's villainized, essentially, right? You're just buying talent. It's not viewed as investing, oddly. And they'll get rid of that player and replace him with a player that they got via trade from a team that is trying to lose games, trying to relocate to Las Vegas, and they'll get Matt Olson. And then everyone will cheer, yay! Look at them rebounding and going to win and getting a chance to go win. That's not exciting to me in any way. I enjoy people who are proactive, right? Who are actually pulling out their wallets and investing.
Like, how do you not bring back Freddie? Like, how do you not move mountains to bring back a homegrown Freddie Freeman? How do you not move mountains to bring back a homegrown Aaron Judge? How do you not move mountains to bring back a homegrown Juan Soto? These are players that you can't just be like, no, you need to, non-negotiable. These guys need to, because I understand, teams will go through this and that and dark ages and all of that. But I think the biggest issue is that what the hell is going to get people into your ballpark when you're trading away Mookie Betts, who is a homegrown player, who you're telling them, because they do this, they promote their farm system, Gary. The Yankees do this. Oh, go see this person at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Go see this person, Trenton Thunder, or whatever. I know they're not called that, Somerset Patriots. But the point I'm making is that they'll promote their farm system. They'll say, go and watch our young Jason Dominguez. And then they won't pay him when he becomes a star. Why? I don't know. But that's one thing I will say is that the Yankees, I feel good about the Yankees in the sense that they didn't just buy a team. They actually invested in players that they developed. Gleyber Torres was a Chicago Cub. But as far as I'm concerned, he is a New York Yankee homegrown farm system guy.
Yeah, we flipped the Aroldis Chapman, a polished closer. You want the guy who can help you get over the top in 2016 and break your curse. By all means, makes a lot of sense for your organization. Go give us your top prospect in Gleyber Torres. They did exactly that. They listened to us.
That was the greatest trade ever.
It was great. It was great for both sides. The Cubs still won the trade. They won a World Series. Spectacular. Good for them. But now we sit here, and frankly, I don't give a rip about teams talking about buying a championship. I even saw that fake report from John Heyman where he just made up news about Juan Soto potentially going to the Dodgers. Just totally made up, right? Totally made up.
Passan's like, nope,
never happened, never will. And guess what? It wouldn't bother me if Juan Soto went to the Dodgers. Do you know why? Because it would be you know what it means? It means the Dodgers were the highest bidder. We gave him money. So if you want that asset, just pay them money. It would
bother me if the Yankees blew it.
It would bother me from a standpoint of the Yankees pissed me off, not the Dodgers and what that would stand for. That's what people are mad about. So, and by the way, Kyle, we appreciate the super chat. We're going to bring it back into the Yankees. He said Yankees in 7. I'm saying it now. Am I too confident? No,
I don't think so.
If you believe that any team has an opportunity to win, say it with your chest, right? You're here on Super Chat. These Super Chats will live on forever. We'll see these. We always see these Super Chats. So it'll be there, Kyle. It will. So yeah, we've got a lot to chew. But as everyone's saying, I'm going to echo what they're saying. It is one game at a time. This is the way Boston took it. You saw the documentary. Maybe you didn't. But the Boston documentary in 2004 was a lot of saying, hey, don't let us win one, right? Boston knew they were getting outplayed, outclassed, right? Just completely overmatched. And they took it as, let's win one game and don't let them beat us one more time. That's the way we have to look at this. So Garrett Cole's on the mound for game 5. He should have an extended leash. He's going to scream at Aaron Boone if he comes out of the dugout. I'm here to tell you right now. You are going to see Mike Mussina, Joe Torre-esque argument out on the mound. It was so awkward. He is going to scream at Aaron Boone, and rightfully so. So I'm excited for what's to come. Something catastrophic can happen. There's no question. Dodgers fans probably feel like, yeah, Garrett Cole got to us in game 1, still came out with the win, but we're going to get to him in game 5 by all means, right? This is a series clincher. Go take it from us. If you want to win a World Series, you're going to have to beat Garrett Cole. And if not, we're going back to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah. And I got to say, to add on to Kyle's, confidence here, that Red Sox team was insane because they had just lost a game 19-8 and had to get ready for game 4. And they played 12 innings and they won. And then guess what? Another back-to-back, because they had 3 in a row, just like the way this is set up. Their game 5, they won in 14 innings. And then they had they played again. Actually, they didn't have any off days. So I'm looking at it right now. There was no off days after game 3. That's crazy. So
that is insane.
That is insane. So game 5 ALCS, they win in 14 innings. Now they're down 3-2. Game 6, they win a 4-2 close game, which they controlled. Kurt Schilling was great. Keith Folk came in for the save. And now it's 3-3. You're in New York. Okay. So this is in the Bronx. The Yankees they just literally lost 3 in a row. They're not looking at like, oh, we're 1 away from the World Series. No. And you saw that. They're looking at like, we just lost 3 in a row. This is not good. And Kevin Brown wasn't good. The Red Sox won 10-3 to go to the World Series. And it's just, this is the reason I bring this up is because the Red Sox had to get ready to go the next day after losing by 11 runs. 11 runs. The Yankees scored 11 tonight. They won by 7. Okay.
Do you know what my dad said after game 5?
What did he say?
I called my dad because maybe you shouldn't, right? In the moment, if you really think about it, obviously it's a very difficult time for everybody. Mm-hmm. But I called my dad and I was like, hey, like, what's going on? And he was saying, it's going to be tough to stop this. And he was right. It is.
They were filming a movie.
it is difficult because some part of you feels that the Dodgers take a 3-0 lead. They're the better team. I don't give a rip about game 1. They're the better team. All their best players are playing like the best players in the world. What are you going to do? Right? Yeah. Buehler is spinning gems. Yamamoto's spinning gems. We're going to see them again in the series. This isn't our year, right? You draw that conclusion after 3 games of the World Series. And yet, all of a sudden, the Yankees beat the brakes off you in game 4. And you go, well, I mean, it's still just one game, not really a big deal. Then you show up to game 5, Garrett Cole's pitching. Say the Yankees win game 5, right? Very doable. They win game 5. Now, all of a sudden, it went from this annoying conversation you had to have that the series is extended. Now the series isn't extended anymore. We're talking about game 6 of the World Series. It's not extended. We are now in a series clincher for the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. Very winnable for both teams. Can be done, right? So you go from a gnat and an irritant to it's pressure time in a very short period of time. So I want people to understand that the Dodgers are very likely to win this series, but the Yankees are also 1 win away from this going from an irritating story for the Dodgers and their fans to, okay, well, who can we rely on to close this thing out? Because this is pressure time now, and we've got to show up. So it's interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, and like the whole reason I brought that up to go to Kyle's point is that at no point have the Yankees ever looked like that. They did not lose a game by 11. As a matter of fact, they're the only team that really blew out the other team in this series. That's interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic because we're talking about a completely different tune right now if the Yankees pull off game 1. Right now, the Yankees are going to win game 3 games, and then they just have to steal 1 in LA, and they're good. However, they lost that first game on a grand slam. And that kind of changed the course of the series because the Yankees outplayed them in the first game, but the Dodgers in that moment got the right hit from Freddie Freeman, the walk-off grand slam. They got that home run just like Gibson in game 1. Gibson, of course, they end up winning the World Series then. So a lot of Dodgers fans instantly were like, sweep. I was seeing it all over the place. Dodgers fans felt like they had just won the series. And I kept saying, it's a long series. You have not won anything yet. So then game 2, the Yankees looked dead, right? That was awful. They could not hit Yamamoto until the 9th inning. They have a little rally. It's all for naught. Then game 3, once again, 4-2, right? You have the meaningless home run by Verdugo. But in those 3 games, 6-3, 4-2, 4-2, then you get an 11-4 spot for the Yankees. This is how you flip the series because unlike the Red Sox, they had lost by 11 and had to get up and play a game with their backs against the wall. The Yankees have been in every game for better or for worse. You can say that 2-4, deficit was brutal. You can say that felt like 8 runs, but the reality is they at the end of each game brought up the tying run. At the end of every game, they had the tying run come to the plate at least. And so to me, I feel like it's easier than what the Red Sox went through. The only thing that makes it harder and the reason it's unprecedented is because now you're talking about the World Series. You're talking about this is the final thing. This has never happened before. But like I said, a game 6 has never been forced by an 0-3 team. So if they can force a game 6, then you put all the pressure in the Dodgers section. And I'll tell you right now, Yamamoto was fantastic in game 2 of the World Series. But asking a rookie to go out there in a game 6 when things might look like they're kind of teeter-tottering, he might have a little bit more pressure, might not look like the game 2 Yamamoto we saw. That remains
I'm sure they don't see him as a rookie. Because, I mean,
know.
You're technically right. He is a rookie. This is his first year in the big leagues. We get that. And there's nothing like pitching in the World Series. It doesn't matter where you throw, what league. But
you can't say
they also got to see what he looks like in a World Baseball Classic. The World Baseball Classic is important. It does feel like postseason baseball. So I'm sure they see that as his first test in terms of Yamamoto. So the Yankees can't feel good about facing Yamamoto. I'm just sorry. You just cannot possibly. No. But the way it goes, and by the way, SoCal says that Field of Dreams, Dodgers, Yankees. We need that. No, we do not.
Nope. I don't need to see Field of Dreams ever again.
Yeah.
Like I said today on Twitter, they're always on the wrong side of history.
Always. And Nick wants to know. He said Michael K says Gleyber is gone. Is he right? Now, first and foremost, Nick, I didn't hear Michael K say this, so I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. I usually don't comment on what other people have said if I didn't hear it. But hypothetically, if he did say this, I cannot possibly tell you Gleyber Torres is gone for the simple fact that people are projecting Juan Soto's contract is going to be so enormous. The Yankees couldn't possibly turn around and give Gleyber Torres, say, an $80 or $100 million contract because they talked about cutting payroll. And I would say from the surface level, that sounds true. And I could draw the conclusion Gleyber will be out the way. But there are some players that are going to be off this roster as well, right? Anthony Rizzo, he commented before the game, I'm not naive to the fact that this could be my last game in pinstripes. He understands. He gets
Verdugo,
this, right? Verdugo. It's a lot of money. You're talking about $30 million worth of players right there. Okay. And you know who doesn't make $30 million and won't make $30 million a year next year? Gleyber Torres.
Aaron Hicks, by the way, a lot of his money comes off the books too.
Correct. There are some players on this roster currently, right? And I'm pretty sure
Clay Holmes.
Yeah, Clay Holmes is making, I believe, $4 or $6 million, one or the other. I believe it's 6. He's probably not on the roster next year. Probably. He probably wants to be a closer for somebody else. We get that. That is totally fine by us. But that is salary coming off the books. So the Yankees have to look at this is, yes, we need to pay a couple of our players to retain them, and we need to give them raises. That is true. But there are some other players who just disappear. So if you give it to me and say, what's your vote, Gary? Like, what are you doing? I'm retaining the players who are contributors. Juan Soto, Gleyber Torres, those guys are contributing for this organization. And if you need to cut salary, cut it somewhere else. So I'm not going to say Gleyber Torres is out the door yet.
Well, and most importantly, as we're seeing postseason play, Gleyber Torres is one of the only guys that can come through in the postseason. He's done it since he was 20, or whatever, 22 or whatever. I'm not letting that guy walk. And again, Gleyber's a homegrown guy. You've actually invested time. You've spent money on just making sure you got something out of him. So no, I absolutely don't let him go. You're not getting a compensatory pick for him because the way they have it set up, you're going to get screwed by spending money on Juan Soto. So you're not going to get a compensatory pick. And yeah, he's your leadoff hitter. You can rely on him in the postseason. I mean, that home run pretty much ended the game. Like after he hit that, it was just like, oh, okay. Like even Joe Davis is like, and it looks like we're on to a game 5. like after that was just like, it's the 8th inning. He hits that home run. And he's been, since he got benched, it's been very even keel. He's been very balanced. I don't feel like he gets into these erratic slumps anymore. I feel like he might have an at bat he wishes he had back. Maybe he attacked too early, but he's been aggressive. He's had some great at bats in this postseason. He works counts. Though you cannot take that with a grain of salt because him working the count against Kasperius opens up the whole door because now, he had 3 walks in this game. He gets to 43 pitches and it's like he's now setting the table. So even if he didn't get on base and he didn't become an RBI opportunity, Gleyber just started the day off with the starter getting 12 pitches. And this is Dave Roberts we're talking about. So like he's going to yank Yamamoto in a game that he's dominating, could probably pitch the entire game. He's going to yank him after 80 pitches, So Gleyber's too valuable. I just don't think you can lose him. You can't lose Soto. Really, this lineup should be almost identical. What we're seeing right now, Torres, Soto, Judge, Chisholm, Stanton should all be back next year. That should be the top of the lineup. Rizzo is probably gone because I think there's going to be a team that wants to pay him a lot of money to be like that veteran presence, like a younger team, maybe like a Pirates, whatever. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I could also see Rizzo taking a pay cut, a significant pay cut to want to stick around, especially if they don't win the World Series. Be like, this is unfinished business. I watch this team. I know we have what it takes, and I feel like Soto will be back, so I'm coming back. Volpe, he's going to be back. The hope is, and this is really the big thing, not only in the short term can he build off that grand slam, but can Volpe build off this in the long term? Can he take this moment? This is a moment that he's always going to remember. This might be a moment that people forget in game 6 if there is one, but he's not going to forget anything. So I think
it has to be it's still a question mark, right? Because Anthony Volpe hasn't thrown it together for an extended period of time. He's been great for the beginning of the year, great in spring training. Then he hit 210 for 3 months in a row.
Absolutely.
Everyone's quitting on the kid, and rightfully so. You're playing terrible, right? You're making errors in big games against Baltimore. And
he was great in the ALCS.
Great in the ALCS, shows up in the World Series, hits a huge grand slam. And yeah, so I wanted to put this, it's not a super chat, but I saw it in the live chat where he's mentioning Gleyber will walk and Jazz will take second base. Jazz Chisholm is a second baseman, right? This is a player who's supremely athletic. He's played center field for the Marlins. He's played second base, and he'd never played third base. And yet, when Gleyber said, yeah, I'm a second baseman, Jazz said, all right, cool. I'm going over to third base. And you see the athleticism. You see the arm.
13 did that.
Yeah, but defensively, Jazz Chisholm is probably going to be a better second baseman. That's his traditional position. That's where he plays. So yes, that is available to them. He's technically under contract next year, but I'm under the impression that the Yankees need more bats, not less. So if I have a bat that's a surefire thing who can perform in New York, I don't want to let a player go in Gleyber Torres simply because we've got to pay him money. And now we've got to pay someone else money or develop a player, which we don't do very well, to come try and perform in New York. I don't want to find out what that's like. I pay the guy and I move on.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, if they lose this World Series or even if they win it, right, you don't want to sell to everybody, well, Juan Soto's coming back, but it's going to be a lesser roster. No. That's not how this works, okay? That tells me that you're not doing your job. That tells me that if you can't open up the checkbook a little bit, like, that's not a good look. That tells me that if you win a World Series, you're like, we're good. Well, why am I going to the baseball park then? Why am I watching you? You know, like, obviously I don't have that assumption, but I know a lot of people would. And so, look, Gleyber should be back. Soto should be back. Judge, Chisholm, Stanton, Rizzo's probably gone. Ben Rice, they feel really good about long-term. We'll see what ends up happening. They could just be saying that, but we've seen it. Ben Rice has some capabilities where if he could get going next year, he could be really important. Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells became the youngest Yankee catcher in World Series history to hit a home run. And then Alex Verdugo, who would have to take a supremely low pay cut to come back and sign for a lot less to come back. Does he want to do that? I don't know. I think that's Jason Dominguez's job personally, but this is kind of what I see. And then, you know, you have guys like Spencer Jones in the farm system who they're very high on. George Lombard Jr., he's way down the line, right? But then even some of the guys that we talked about, the second baseman whose name is totally escaping me, has kind of the stature of like Jose Altuve.
Oh,
Durbin, yeah. So they are very high on Durbin. Yeah. Very high on him. I've seen multiple articles from guys who are like, the Yankees look at him like he's next year's project, right? So I think they're ready if Gleyber does walk. If he plays hardball and makes it difficult, they'll just move on and let Durbin and Vivas and all those guys duke it out for that second base job.
I don't like the idea. It's crazy because just knowing their history, looking at the players, because you actually put me on to Durbin. Caleb Durbin's a player that I really wasn't paying a ton of attention to. And I know we're not going to dive a ton into prospects during the World Series, but the idea of a all-time, like, you're talking about getting rid of a player who's been a key contributor for us in October and letting him go because of money when you're the richest organization in baseball. And that's saying quite a bit. Okay. We're playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you'd think, man, all the money that they're getting from you. Have you seen the viewership from Japan right now? Do you know the type of money the Dodgers are making? Everyone was saying no player's worth $700 million. I said, I bet you Shohei Ohtani's worth $700 million. I bet you. Do you know, I would love to know the number of how many dollars Ohtani alone has made this organization. So this idea that $80 million or $100 million is a lot of money to these teams, it is not, guys. It's a lot of money to you and I. It's a lot of money to the common person, right? It's a lot of money. But when you're talking about people like Hal Steinbrenner, right, the owner of the Dodgers, they're rich, they are wealthy. I shouldn't even say rich. So yeah, never feel sorry for them. Never cape up for suits that are building baseball teams. If you have great players, just retain the great players. And if you don't think that player will be great for that much longer, then you let him go, right? Los Angeles Dodgers, they were in a position, they had a player by the name of Cody Bellinger, was historically great, right? MVP season. And he had a bad shoulder. He hurt it during the World Series. And they made the decision based on his performance and how he's performing after injury, we're going to move on, right? They didn't hate Cody Bellinger. They weren't investing in that future. And then guess what? Did the Dodgers just get rid of a player like that who was making a lot of money and just sit on their hands? No, they made additions to the roster. And that's what happened. So you got to give credit where it's due. These organizations who are aggressive, and they put a lot of pressure on us, and we have to respond. So, unfortunately, we run into a team who they have a lot of talent. They do. And people have said, oh, Freddie Freeman's the only guy who's really hitting. I saw some pretty decent at bats out of Mookie Betts today as well. I did, right? He was going the other way. He was a pest. Like, I know he didn't have much to show for it, but I will tell you, to finish out this series, we're going to have to control the top 4 of their lineup. It's just that simple.
No, I agree with that. You mentioned Japanese. I immediately thought of Murakami, who's he's like Japanese Aaron Judge is what they call him. I don't know if you knew this. He signed with an MLB agent, Casey Close, the same agent of Zach Greinke and Clayton Kershaw and Tanaka.
Really?
So,
okay,
it's interesting because it sounds like by the end of 2025 he'll be coming over. There's a chance he comes over for this season upcoming. But
you have to imagine he's a Dodger, correct?
Well, I don't really know. Because I mean, can the Dodgers get him, Sasaki, and I think there was another guy that they wanted? Because I don't know if you're going to be able to get all of those guys. Maybe.
I would assume Sasaki is a Dodger. I would say it's safe to assume. Now, of course, a lot of
I just feel like Murakami's going to end up being like a San Francisco Giant. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I can see that as well. I think that was my prediction as well at first, because I know maybe 2 or 3 years ago, people were talking about him potentially showing up as a Yankee. And there are some teams. The West Coast thing is about travel. Being able to have a direct flight to Japan, you can't do that from New York. And that matters, right? It matters from the media's point of view. It matters as far as time zones. And in general, there's a ton of history for the Dodgers with Japanese players. Obviously, we have some of our own with Hideki Matsui, but no one can match what the Dodgers have done with Japanese players. And that will matter when it comes to free agents.
Sasaki, future Pirate. I gotta give you credit for that one. That is funny.
I was actually far more impressed with Sasaki's stuff than Yamamoto. Yamamoto is obviously more of a Tanaka type arm where it's deception, location, right?
Yeah.
Breaking stuff. People mention, I think his four-seam fastball, he's going to struggle in the big leagues. I thought that was ridiculous. Did you not watch him pitch in the WBC? He was sensational. So he's not going to struggle with his fastball, right? But Sasaki's throwing 100. So the stuff pops off the screen. I'll never believe anyone's a front runner. I don't care what they tell me about the Mets, Yankees, any other team, the Mariners. I'm going to believe the team that's showing up to the World Series that obviously is still likely to win is going to get the player that people want to get because they did get a deferred contract. That will matter. As far as free agents go, when you get to pay Ohtani $2 million, it's important because now you have money to spend, and that's part of why he did it. So you just tip your cap, and also you hope, hey, maybe Juan Soto wants to defer some money.
Yeah, that would be cool. I doubt it. And I'll say this. I think it makes a lot of sense for Ohtani because I'm pretty sure if he defers the money, then he can go to Japan, get the money, and then it's not taxed in California. I think that's what I read. That was like a loophole.
I saw that, and then I said it, and then someone got mad. They're like, that's not possible. I was like, all right, well. I don't know. I don't really
possible because I mean, like for instance, the Rams paid OBJ in Bitcoin. Like, you know what I mean? Like there are different ways that you can be paid out. It's certainly possible. We'll see how what ends up happening there. But it's funny how they're saying now that it could be down to the Yankees and Dodgers for Sasaki, which I just don't see the Yankees getting him. I think the Yankees have more of a shot at Murakami. I do, because I think he's actually stated he really likes the Yankees. So Sasaki's a Dodger. I mean, we've known this for a while.
Well, you know what? You can also have confirmation bias regardless of the team you're talking about, because you could say that Senga is going to be a huge factor in this recruitment, right?
That's true.
No one really knows. We don't. Hideki Matsui just decided, I'm going to go play for the Yankees. He could have went and played for the Giants. He could have played for the Mariners, right? Teams that had Japanese players. They could have just gone and played there, but they didn't.
Matsuzaka,
Daisuke. No one's got a clue if they want to be around one Japanese player or another, or if they want to etch their own self and history and they want to go play for another organization. Okay, that's fine. But We don't know. We will say, you would assume you've got a couple Japanese players. You've got probably the winningest team. You're in LA weather. I mean, let's get serious. It is much better, but you do have the taxes. The taxes are high in New York as well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, even Kagawa. I tried to have a straight face when I was saying it, and I just couldn't. It's just too funny. It's just so funny because that was the pivot when they missed out on Daisuke Matsuzaka. They're like, Kagawa. And then he ended up having a 7 ERA, and it was just awful.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of 7 ERAs, you know what's so interesting is Jack Flaherty was very good, correct?
Yeah.
Sensational. He was electric, which is what matters, is what you do on the big stage. What's
Absolutely.
so interesting, his ERA for the 2024 postseason, including that start he had against the Yankees, his ERA is 6.10.
Yeah.
So it is
I've
very
seen a lot of
possible
he's
the
up
Yankees
and
can get to
down.
him. Yeah, which is, it's good for us. I mean, are we supposed to argue otherwise? If the Yankees saw Carlos Rodon pitch extraordinarily well in game 2, right? Dodgers had lost a game 2. Would they be freaking out? We would probably tell them, I wouldn't freak out when you face Carlos Rodon again, because he could be the worst pitcher you've seen the next time.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the way it is. So let's be honest about the characteristics of certain players. A pitcher with an ERA of 6.10, objectively speaking, if he is sensational the first time he pitches against you, chances are high he's going to regress to the means. So my thought is, just as far as game 5 goes, the Yankees have a real shot. I do.
Yeah, and keep in mind, that was the first time the Yankees faced him this year. So the Yankees didn't get a chance to face him because he was traded to the Dodgers right before their series against the Tigers. So they never faced him this year. So I think he had kind of the up on them, but at the same time, he did give up that 2-run shot. And, he did come up a little limp, I guess. They were saying that, his hip or whatever. So if that plays a factor, who knows? But I feel confident saying this as we wrap up the show. Okay. Garrett Cole is astronomically better than Jack Flaherty. And Jack Flaherty's a very good pitcher.
Yep.
If Garrett Cole brings his, I want to say if Garrett Cole wants that legacy moment in his career and he comes out and they can't hit him, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy threw a damn perfect game. I mean, keep in mind, Garrett Cole has been dying for this. Okay. Garrett Cole had he didn't throw a perfect game, obviously, in game 1, but he threw a very, very good game and they lost. And if he was pitching game 4, very well could have just been like, I'm giving it my all, but maybe he's got to feel something now that they just won game 4. You're telling me he has a chance to go out there and do that. He was the Cy Young winner last year, and they didn't make the playoffs. So, yes, Garrett Cole has been waiting his career to pitch in this moment. And he's pitched in these games, and he's been kind of, up and down. He hasn't been horrible in the postseason, but he's had some games where you're like, all right, that wasn't Garrett Cole. But he was great in game 1. I expect him to be great in game 5. And I definitely think if they push it to a game 7, maybe even a game 6, you might see him late in the... I'm not kidding you. If they push it to a game 6, you might see him late in the game. But I definitely think you see him if they get to a game 7. What I'll say in conclusion is this. The Dodgers right now do not have any sort of worry. That was just a bullpen game. They won. The Yankees won. To your point, I thought you worded it perfectly. The Yankees are a gnat right now. They're annoying. They're the fruit fly that won't go away. You've tried to kill it a million times. You thought you did. Just kidding. It multiplied or whatever. But the problem with game 5 for the Dodgers is if they don't win that, see, a lot of Dodgers fans are instantly going to pivot to, we're at home the next 2 games. You used your best pitcher. It doesn't even matter anymore because you want to tell me Carlos Rodon thought he was going to get an opportunity after game 3. He was going to get another opportunity for redemption. That dude is chomping at the bit. And let's not forget the Royals series. He had an awful start against the Royals. Well, he came back and had a great start when he was more composed, right? And so I wouldn't put it past Rodon to have a huge game. Maybe he has his AJ Burnett game in game 6 and it's late, but he has a huge game nonetheless against the Dodgers. I'm just saying right now, to your point, the Yankees right now are annoying. They could be really, really dangerous if you let them win game 5.
Yeah. As of now, we have close to no chance. But if you let them win game 5, they go from the annoying team to now we got to go home and play game 6. Any series is winnable. If you're allowing a team, all they got to do is win 2 games. Winning 3 is the problem. Winning 4 in a row is the problem. But once you allow them to get there, the fruit fly is a problem. And that's part of, for those of you who don't know, this is your first time on our channel, we give you guys a movie at the end of the show, just so you can prove that you were here and you stuck it out for an hour and 40, which we are incredibly appreciative of. I'm going with a movie, Jake, that is both good and also stupid and annoying, kind of like the Yankees right now. Napoleon Dynamite. Okay, this is a movie that came out in 2004. Great movie, low budget, terrible. Really an awful movie, but it's so enjoyable. Funny. It's a classic. It's funny. And yeah, that's where we are right now. We are the fruit fly. You put it perfectly. We're the fruit fly that just won't die. And we're showing up for a game 5. I think everyone will say, even though the way the Dodgers have played, you feel like the Dodgers are the favorite coming into game 5. But based on the pitching matchup, you feel like the tide could turn just in that one game. So it's interesting. I'm excited for the game. We'll all be watching. Vote for Pedro's right. Go Yankees.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you heard him. Put in Napoleon Dynamite. Like I mentioned earlier, these guys, they got going. It doesn't matter who they got going against. If Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells and even Aaron Judge, if they can bring that fire that they had in this game, Aaron Judge, albeit very minor fire, but if they could bring that into game 5, buckle up, folks. This is going to be a fun ending to this World Series.
Yeah, and also, before I tell you to like this video, don't forget to subscribe before you go, because a lot of you guys are here new. We have a lot of new people, Jake.
Yes.
We can't forget that. There are some people who do catch us on the algorithm, so make sure you guys are subscribed. And for those of you who are subscribers who are here as repeat watchers, make sure you hit the bell. That's all I see is vote for Pedro. Such a dumb. I look like Pedro. Are you
Gary
kidding me?
Looks like Pedro. I don't think you saw Napoleon Dynamite if he looks like Pedro.
Give me a break. I'm Gucci. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. And of course, people on Twitter, because we know you people exist. Definitely be sure to check us out on YouTube if you enjoyed this. If you're a Dodger fan, Yankee fan, we'd love to have you into the Yankees Unloaded little community we're building here. So be sure to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. And also, last thing I'll say, Yankees fans and Yankees fans, for real, if you want to join our Discord, it's free. It's basically a 24/7 Yankees group chat. So during the game, you all can interact, and it's like the Yankees Unloaded community. If you're interested, link is in the description. Again, it is free, so be sure to check it out. That's going to do it for us. We appreciate you guys, and hopefully we are talking about Game 6 tomorrow night. We'll find out, but you guys enjoy the rest of your night.
And vote for Pedro and like this video.